Last one, Andy. Pop the intro in, and then we'll hook up the last bracket. Everything else. Hi, Rusty here again, Cosmic Comics. Here today, obviously, to talk about the 9th annual Cosmic Madness Tournament. It is the required reading Rumble. And it is comic books. It is comic books. We've never done comic books before, so we thought we'd try something new this year. And in the past, we've said greatest superhero. We've said greatest team. We've said best woman superhero. I'm not really going to use those terms this year. There's only 32 comics to pick from. There's only 32 spots. 8 DCs, 8 Marvels, 8 Image, 8 everything else. Are these the 32 best comic books of all time? Wow, there's an argument. You could make thousands to choose from, is my point. There's so many to choose from this year. I'm not going to say these are the 32 best comics of all time. I am going to say they are required reading, and I hope you are ready to rumble. Every one of these books, we think, me, Andy, David, think you should read. They're all great, and they're all totally worth reading. And you're going to vote on which one you think is best of these choices. And we tried to pick stuff that was newer, readily available, still sort of mattered. I mean, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did fantastic stuff in the 60s, and you might say some of those are the best comics of all time. We're not talking about those, okay? We're talking about current, modern comics. There's only 32 to pick from, and these are the ones that we choose.
Let's get ready to rumble!
All right, we have finally reached to our last bracket. It is the everything else bracket, the catch-all, where we just put the books in that we had left that we thought deserved to be in the required reading Rumble, 9th annual Cosmic Madness Tournament. First one to start off with today is a mammoth book. Look at this thing. From Hell. It is an Alan Moore book. He wrote The Watchmen, which we talked about earlier. Did come out in the 1990s. It is a Jack the Ripper book. Now, I have actually personally never read From Hell. I know, it should be my required reading. But I do not like serial killers, and I just tend not to do serial killer things. Andy, on the other hand, he loves it. It is one of his all-time favorites. So why don't you just ask Andy all about it?
Glad you asked. And it's a good question too. I mean, this thing is the size of a phone book. It's black and white in a very scratchy art style that only Eddie Campbell can do, and it's written so dense that it could only be Alan Moore. So why do I like it so much? I guess the short version is because it is historical fiction at its finest. It is so richly detailed. It tells you so much about time and place, London, late 1800s, architecture, people, so on and so forth. And the whole time you're getting this picture from Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell of who Jack the Ripper probably was, in their eyes anyway. Which gets me to the index at the back of the book, which is about, the last 50 pages or so of Alan Moore's notes and references for how he arrived at the theory that he arrived at. And if you've got an extra 6 months on your hand, I highly recommend reading the book along with the appendix itself, From Hell.
Well, thanks for asking. Hope you enjoyed Andy's answer. Moving on. And next up is Kick-Ass. Now, I wanted to include Kick-Ass in this tournament. I like it a lot. I also think it's important. It is Mark Millar's non-Marvel claim to fame. I mean, he wrote Civil War. But I just like it a lot. And I think it's important. He just signed a Netflix deal because of Kick-Ass. He's just making movies. When you look at the movie industry, Black Panther just came out. Marvel's making all these movies. You saw Hellboy. You saw Spawn a long time ago. You see Sin City. Well, nobody. Mark Millar's made like 4 now. and he's going to keep making them, and nobody has turned comics into movies better than Mark Millar has, and it did all start with Kick-Ass. I created a franchise out of it. More power to him, no doubt at all. I do like it. Love me some Hit Girl. And I have just assumed that everyone's heard of this one, which is another testament to Mark Millar, that it's that well known. And another reason, it is required reading. All right, moving on. Mouse. Now, it's been a long time since I've read this book. But much like I don't like serial killers, I don't really like Nazis either. So, haven't really ever read it but once. It was excellent. It did win the Pulitzer Prize in 1992. I don't think any other comic can claim a Pulitzer Prize. Fact check me on that puppy. It is a World War II book. German occupation, Holocaust. It's told in flashback, 1979. Then they flashes back to the 30s, and the story's told through the end of the war. The book does portray humans as animals, Jews are drawn as mice, and other Germans and Poles are cats and pigs. Lots of evil Nazis in it. Boo, I hate Nazis. We can still say that, right? Boo, I hate Nazis. That's still allowed? Yes, I hate Nazis. Serious subject matter, serious book, seriously well done. It won the Pulitzer Prize. Mouse. Planetary. Greatest comic ever. 27 issues total, ended in 2009. My favorite writer of all time, Warren Ellis. One of my favorite artists of all time, John Cassady's. Could be my favorite comic of all time, very easily. It is Planetary. It is the greatest comic ever. Didn't say it was the best. Said it was the greatest. Said it was my favorite. What makes it the best? Look, I don't know anyone who has ever read Planetary that did not like it. You can be a contrarian. You can read it. You can tell me you didn't like it now. But at this moment in time, I do not know anyone who has ever read it who has not liked it. I like it to different degrees. Some people love it. Some people sort of like it. You know, there's different degrees of like. But everyone likes Planetary. And it's the greatest comic ever because it works in 3 ways. If you have never even read a comic book before, ever, any comic ever, you can read this book and totally understand it and get so much out of it, you will just love it. It is also set in pure Wildstorm continuity. Stormwatch, Authority, Wildcats, Planetary is pure Stormwatch continuity from, you know, the 90s and 2000. So if you're familiar with that universe at all, you can enjoy it on that level. And then to top it all off, it has so much comic book history involved in it. The more you know about comic book history, the more you'll even get out of it. There's a Doc Savage character in there. There's Fantastic Four characters in there that are never mentioned or that don't act like them. But if you know comics, you know who these characters are. And it's all blended together. It's totally awesome. Issue number 3 is one of the best single issue comics of all time. It has a great car chase and a ghost cop that is just fantastic. Planetary, greatest comic ever. I would suggest reading it. Next on the list is Preacher. Yes, someday they'll get TV shows right. Some they do better than others, but we're still waiting. The book is way better. 66 issue story plus some specials. It was ended up in the year 2000. It is Garth Ennis's claim to fame. super hot back in the day. By the time issue 3 came out, issue number 1 of Preacher was going for $100. This is back before, the Wizard magazine days, before the internet. It goes back a while, if you remember those days. Preacher was, one of the first modern just skyrocketing hits. It was incredible. And when it came out, it was something that you've never read before. It was totally different. I mean, it's whacked out. It's a crazy story. Mature readers only. Jesse Custer, Tulip, Cassidy tooling across the country, getting into trouble. And there was nothing like it when it came out. It was just different. And it still sort of holds true today. I don't know that you've ever read anything like Preacher. It is a little different and special unto itself. All right, let me see here. Next up, Sandman. Sandman, you're getting old, buddy. I hate to tell you, but you are getting old. Neil Gaiman's claim to fame. Critically acclaimed series, ran for 75 issues, ended back in 1996. That's them pre-internet days. It's that old. And this was the book that the person who you never saw in the store before used to come in and ask for, where can I find the Sandman? Now they're moving on to Saga. Although we do still get some Sandman questions. It still has some staying power. It is still excellent. Sandman's one of the endless. There's Death, Destiny, Delirium. There's 7 of them, Gods of the Universe. But the one thing you got to know about Sandman is it's not really a complete story like we think of them today. There's 10 trade paperbacks and at least that many stories. Some of them have multiple stories. But Sandman was really written for the single issue comic. That's how they used to do it. So it's not like today's books at all. It is an old school style, for better or worse. That's up for you to decide. But it was totally made as a single issue monthly comic, not to be collected into trades like they do today. And by the way, you can either blame or praise Brian Michael Bendis for the whole writing for the trade thing. That's on him. This is Sandman by Neil Gaiman, one of the all-time greats. Moving on, only a couple more to go. Scalped. Scalped was a 60-issue series, ended in 2002, 5 years ago or so. Jason Aaron is the writer. He writes Marvel books these days, writes a lot of them. Mighty Thor, Wolverine. He's deeply entrenched over there at Marvel right now. He does still write some Image books. Southern Bastards is the book that he's doing over at Image right now. Scalped is set in, current continuity in 2010. It involves an Indian reservation, the FBI, drugs, mobs, casino. It is depressing. It is kind of a depressing tale, but it is incredible. And Scalped, we already talked about. Best books of the week, best books of the month. Scalped was a winner multiple times. Issue number 34 of Scalped. It was a 60-issue series. Issue number 34 of Scalped, sort of like a mid-season finale, tied up every thread from issue 1 to 34. One of the best comics I have ever read in my life. Issue 34 of Scalped. Totally incredible. And then the month after that came out, issue 35 was a standalone story of this old couple living in the Dakota Badlands in the hills and their struggle to survive. And that was one of the best books I have ever read in my life. Scalped is incredible, awesome series all the way to the end. Just keep some Prozac laying around if you get depressed easily. Our last entry in the everything else bracket of the 2018 required reading rumble is Strangers in Paradise. It was a 90-issue series, ended in 2007, so a little older now. The story just revolves around 2 women, Francine and Kachu. trying to live their lives as simply as possible, but that never happens in comics. Life gets in the way, as we all know. Mysterious pasts come to light. You know, it's got some politics, shadow agencies, organized crime. All these poor girls just want to be left alone to live their lives, and there's stuff going on all around him. Just the way it goes. This is another book that before Saga, women especially used to come in and say, where can I find The Strangers in Paradise? I love it. It's great. It's not just for women, but I'm telling you, if your wife doesn't read comics, or you are a woman who doesn't really read comics, and you want to try something out, Strangers in Paradise is definitely a place to start. High quality reading, not just for women, but required reading nonetheless. So that is the image bracket, and so that's should have 4 videos now on the website, on Facebook. I guess they're not on Twitter, but they're out there. YouTube, check them all out. That's 32 entrants into the tournament. One more video coming your way, though. You're either going to have to wait 48 hours or, you know, if you're late to the party, just click. And that is the draw. We did give you all of the contestants in alphabetical order. There are no seeds this year. We are going to do a live draw, which you can witness to see who goes head-to-head against each other in the first round. Voting's going to start on March 14th. The brackets are going to be revealed in 48 hours. Voting starts on March 14th. You will be able to pick up a bracket to fill out on February 28th, which is next week, to enter, make your choices, and enter to try and win Cosmic Cash. And then you have to have the brackets back by March 13th, which is the day before voting starts. Obviously, you need to have your brackets turned in before voting starts. So we are now within 2 weeks of, or less, of Cosmic Madness officially getting underway. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.